Greetings. You're listening to Keeping in Touch with My People. Of course, I'm your host, Elizabeth Hansen Watley, here on WSTX AM 970. If you want to catch us live, check us out on StreamYard.com. Look for WSTX AM 970. And of course, we're live on Facebook. Look for Elizabeth Hansen Watley. Numbers here 340-773-0390. 340-773-0490. You know how we started here. Happy birthday. Let's go. We sing happy birthday to you. And may all your dreams come true. Happy birthday. Oh, this is your birthday song. Oh, celebration all night long. Oh, may all your dreams come true. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday celebration. Party night, feel the vibration. Light the light, feeling alright. Dancing till the morning light. Happy birthday celebration. Everybody gets the temptation. Once again, this is your night, and everyone feels right. Happy birthday to you. And may all your dreams come true. We sing happy birthday. Happy birthday. We're wishing you much love today and blessings. And for those who we have lost physically, we remember you in the spirit and we say happy birthday to you. It is an awesome Saturday morning here on the big island of St. Croix. You know, they call us America's paradise, and it's not because we're friendly, it's because it's really paradise here. Um, I got up this morning and I decided, well, I try to be on my best behavior, but you know what? This week has been one that has brought some truths home to me, and I'm going to share those truths. I am not one who is often afraid of anything, so this week you're gonna get all the facts. This is we're in the height of the political season. There's a lot taking place here in the territory as we are now having the decision of who's going to be leading us into the future, across the board, right? From the legislature to the executive branch and, Congress and all of that good stuff. And as you all should know by now, I am also a candidate for the Senate. So the climate is it's shifting a bit. Let me say it like that. Some people wish to get your support, your endorsement, your strength that they think that you come with as a candidate, all of that good stuff. And I try to tell people often, in the most respectful way, that Elizabeth Hansen Watley is going to always keep it 100 with you, right? If I am not in support or in agreement with you, I'm not going to pretend to be because of some kind of benefit. I don't need that, and I don't want that type of relationship with anyone. The second thing for me is these assumptions about um, affiliations and so forth, and I have a big issue with people trying to use people, right? Trying to um, be opportunists with people's lives. And this politics thing, I keep telling people it's not for the weak of heart. I've been hearing some stories now about people being threatened and all kind of things. And I said, listen, to me, that's nothing new. I have been around politics my entire life, and I have seen and experienced family members dealing with threats and all of that just for defending the people of the Virgin Islands. So I know it comes with that. For other people, that may be a shocker for them and a wake up call that this thing is something very serious, and that's why I hope you don't just pop up and make the decision to throw yourself into this without doing your homework about it, because it is going to this is just the tip of the iceberg, you know. Um, I think that I have explained a few times to people why I am an independent, no party candidate, and wanting it to be clear that I have no affiliation with any party, and that I am here solely for the betterment of home and representing the Virgin Islands people. And so don't throw me in your mix up, eh? Don't do it, because I have been playing nice with the crews, and doing what I need to do, and not being distracted, and I don't want to be in the fray with whatever bacchanal going on. So I leave me out the bacchanal, right? Now I am looking forward to seeing if we have any forums, any debates, or anything that takes place, uh, because everything seems a bit quiet now that the primary is over. And I would love to sit down on a panel with other candidates, and not only as a candidate, uh, go, have a conversation, but also as a constituent to hear the plans, and the what direction some people want to go. I think I've been very vocal here on keeping in touch as to where I want to see the Virgin Islands head to, and some of the ideas that I have that I would love to implement. Hi, good morning to all of you on the live. Rashida, good morning to you. Annette, Evelyn, Amy, good morning. Yeah, I'm sorry. As you guys pop up, I'm gonna try to hail you up before the screen changes. And those of you on the live on the stream yard, good morning. Yeah, so um I am excited, but I am waiting to see where we can come together and have a conversation and even a debate. I love debates. I love to go toe to toe, answer your questions, concerns, and so forth. So I'm waiting to see who is going to pull the trigger on that. In the interim, I have a platform that is going to be live on, and when I say live, it means that you'll have access to it. Um, it is something I think that people will enjoy. There's good information in my platform as far as some of the areas that I want to address. Um, Once you guys allow me the blessing of being elected, there's a lot of points in there that I want to address. Of course, nothing happens overnight, but um, I do want to see the low hanging fruit addressed right away. Healthcare is not something we could kick down the road. Education is not something we could kick down the road. And so we have to be serious about what we want. Our airport, our dock in Frederickston, and access to the people of the Virgin Islands. All of these areas, senior living, veterans affairs. I could go on and on and on, but the point that I'm making is we have to make a first step. And it's I see that the political climate is one that is so different now. We used to get platforms from candidates, so we could get a gist of what they would like to address, read into who they are outside of their candidacy as a person, maybe some of their background as to what work experience they had. I don't see much of that anymore. Seeing a lot of generic stuff generated, which this is a time and age for it. It's just not my style. I like to be able to read through my information and what I am proposing, authentically and not have a computer generated for me. So that's not my thing. Um, but I look forward to, proving myself to the people of the Virgin Islands. Oftentimes people assume you have a benefit because people know your name, but sometimes it could be counterproductive because there's an assumption of what you're capable of. And so I've, you know, invested a lot of time in putting a document together that gives you a good perspective of who I am, my work experience, my educational background, community work, and so forth, and also the plans that I have in place that I would love to implement once elected. Now, we're going to sidebar a second because last week I started speaking about a few things to include our airport on St. Croix and the increase of fees that would be incurred, although it doesn't seem to be much of an improvement that would be done at our St. Croix airport as opposed to the airport in St. Thomas. And I will say it again. I think last week I was angered by the plans because it was yet again an example of St. Croix being on the back burner, in my opinion. Because at this juncture, St. Croix, what is being proposed for St. Croix should have already been there, and we should be passing that. Talking about putting a belt in the airport that should have already been there as part of your rendering, three jet bridges, but basically paint and the three jet bridges is your drastic change as opposed to what we're seeing on the sister island. And I'm not saying that the sister island doesn't need improvement. I welcome that for over there. But St. Croix has such potential. We can refuel flights. We have goods that we could possibly work with the airlines to sell on their carriers. We have the space, okay, and I think I was hoping for more, and it didn't even scratch the surface of what I had in my mind. People tell me I think too big for the Virgin Islands, but I don't. I beg to differ. You know, um, to go from being able to distribute the world's sugar to not having a clearly identified export from the territory is a long fall from grace. But the point is, we have the potential, we have the capability, we just have to do the right thing. I don't know where the senators stand on this situation. All I'm hearing about is a meeting, a meeting, a meeting. To me, just on the face, um, if the carriers are telling you that they're the possibility of not having the airlift that we have worked so hard to get is there, and also the increase of rates when we know that our rates are sky high already. Um, I would think that this wouldn't even be a option. They're offering to pay out whatever it is you owe and get a better deal. I'm trying to figure out what's the issue, but I'm not the one at the table. The other thing for me is we want to bring people to the territory, of course. This is our bread and butter here, tourism. But I saw a video. I try to stay very positive, but some things anger you. I saw a video with a taxi operator throwing their trash out. Well, it was implied based on what was happening in the video. This person discarded their trash right on the side of the road, broad daylight. And someone filmed them and asked them to pick up their trash, and they had a dialogue and all of that stuff. Long story short for me is we really have to have pride in home, and we really have to self-reflect on what we want for our home. There should never be a situation where you're just stashing your trash out your window, especially as an ambassador of the territory. It doesn't matter where um, you know, you came from, as far as uh, your home, your original home, and all of that. If you make the territory your home, you should have as much pride in it as everybody else. Just as if I had gone somewhere and I decided to make that my home, I will respect the place. This thing about, you know, somebody gonna come and clean it and all of this kind of foolishness, nonsensical behavior makes no sense. This person is saying, well, my friend will come and clean the location, and so I ain't no big deal. You're making it a big deal. What? Listen, I would never do something like that, but had I done it and somebody had been checked me on it, right, and had brought to my attention, hey, what are you doing? I would be so embarrassed. You got enough to go and argue with a person, pick up your garbage and move on. And my thing is, if you are, doing something where you know you'll be on the road most of the day, walk with a garbage bag. I was very disappointed because now people might look at other taxi operators and say, oh, that's what they do. And you represent all taxi drivers, no matter what you do. You're supposed to be an ambassador. Now, you have to drive around the territory and carry guests around, and you helping to make the place look nasty. I mean, it is just unacceptable behavior. And here again, we have great taxi operators that go above and beyond to give the best customer service. But because you are now associated with being a taxi operator, you know, here is a stain on them. We got to do better. It takes each one of us to make this place great. I look around now, and there are so many places that are part of my young story growing up and formulating the person you see now. And I go back there and there's nothing. I went, drive through Kennedy. I don't see any activity at the community center where I learned to play steel pan. I go to the different baseball fields. I don't see any activity where I used to play softball, volleyball, soccer, the pool, all of these things that are part of my story. I can take my children to enjoy, show them what we used to do. And it changes your whole environment where you start to feel hopeless sometimes. And I don't think a lot of individuals understand how this affects a young person growing up, where they feel like there's nothing tangible, nothing exists for them. The memories that my generation talks about, this would never be their story because they don't have access to what we had. We knew people from the other town because we used to play sports together. Or we go camping on the beach. Your family take you to this one or that one house. Christmas time, you hopping from one house to the other house. You have food and drinks. You hear old time stories. When you go camping, you hear about this one and that one and the nicknames and everything. Which road this one happened and that one took place, and how I get this car and how I do this and how I do that and which tamarind tree. And what will our children say once they are grown? This week was a a week of reflection for me. I saw so much death, accidents, murders, just death. And I sat down and I thought about, you know, our community having PTSD because it's all around. And then there's nothing to swoop in and say, hey, let's sit down and have a conversation. Let's acknowledge this is taking place and address it. I come like every morning you wake up, is some traumatic thing happening. And while you may think it doesn't affect somebody else because they're not blood relatives, it affects all of us. We live in a small community. Somebody know this person. You know about some story when they were growing up, you know, their mother, their father, their grandfather. Somebody knows whoever these people are. And then there are some of us that become insensitive. Tony Lewis, good morning. Thank you for joining me. Jacobs, good morning. Um, there are, we don't think about how traumatic this could be for people. Just all around. Shooting by the court, you know, these people ain't even 25 years old yet. And we sit down and we some of us are very dismissive of people's lives. Oh, this one, that one do this and this other one. And while you may be correct, here's how I look at life. You are not to judge anybody else. Although human nature causes us to do a lot of things and project a lot of things on people and do a lot of assumption. However, you ain't God, you ain't Jesus Christ. How you think you could sit down and dismiss people and feel like you could just say whatever? You know what I thought about 2 days ago? I said, if Elizabeth Hansen died today, what would they say? What story they would come up with? And we seem to always find the worst things to say about people when they pass. What I don't understand what that is about. When there's a family grieving, when there is trauma there, we never think about they might have children and what the children are hearing. We take pictures of dead bodies and we send it around, and that now is our new entertainment. And then we wonder why these children grow up and they seem to be very ruthless and heartless. Some of y'all promote that kind of behavior. You then, okay. I get so much phone calls. They had a fight. There was a fight over somebody's jewelry. They own jewelry. And I hear somebody say, well, they shouldn't have had on jewelry. No. Teach your children not to take people things. Because we always have an excuse for foolishness. Anybody had come here and tell me that my children beat up somebody for their jewelry, you think, first of all, it ain't happening because they're going to have to face me and they know it. Why would you try to justify bad behavior? School just start. Oh, well, their children and this one and the one going through a traumatic experience and no, we are not animals. If your child is not afraid of you disciplining them, something is wrong. You think I could have ever had anybody call my parents and say I steal something? If I ever lose my hand and I do that, I just know I ain't going home. There is no way you'd get me to go home if you had called my parents and tell them that. Just the mere fact that you grew up where you did not want to embarrass your family. You got to tell me 5 and 6 fight going on, and you know you're being taped and you continue to fight. There's no justification for it. Even if he had stolen it from somebody else, there's no justification for it. And it gets me angry for a few reasons. I used to work um, under the Law Enforcement Planning Commission office dealing with juvenile justice delinquency prevention. And if you saw the amount of young people that were going to YRC over foolishness, you have a record, you went through the system, your name is tainted before you even become an adult. And it is so easy to direct them in another way. It is so easy to have a conversation, but you know what's going on? We are not teaching our children how to communicate. Communicate in a way that is respectful. If you and I have a disagreement, we got to fight. And then when we get access to a gun, we got to murder. That's where we jump into. We can't have a disagreement and move on. Why I got to hit you and you got to hit me? Conflict resolution used to be a big thing in school. No, I don't hear about that anymore. And then half of these children, if you go to them and you ask them basic things they're supposed to know at the high school level, they don't know it. So you don't have time to be fighting nobody. You need all the schooling you could get. And some parents would try to justify foolishness. And then you crying because they take your child life. Stop them now. 9 times out of 10, the children related. They don't even know. They don't even know. Because they don't come out the house. They're always on a cell phone, an iPad, and it's that. They see each other in school. We have to pull it back. It's getting crazy. When you see all of these people are getting killed less than 30 years old, you see something wrong with that? When you're done, these girls don't have anybody to marry or start a family with. Let's really think about what's taking place in our environment. Meanwhile, it seems very quiet out here. Nobody is saying let's stop this on a grand scale. I remember growing up, it used to have people in certain neighborhoods, they in charge of that. They talk to the young people in that neighborhood. Are you cool out? Do something, let we do something else. But there's nothing for the children to do. I spoke to someone just recently about Keep Gallows Bay Afloat. There used to be a great activity where families would come together in Gallows Bay for a fun day. I have such great memories of that. I learned so much about Gallows Bay and the island. I was able to see where, my father was born literally. I hear a lot of people say they born in this place and that place. My father was literally born in Gallows Bay in his parents' house. And I was able to go through that house as a child. I was able to, see the rooms. I was able to be in the neighborhood and have fun. And, the camaraderie of the neighborhood. You ain't got that no more. You ain't got no Keep Gallows Bay Afloat anymore. But that's just one example. I used to play softball in Wim, down in St. Farm, down in Canigata. I sang baseball, softball. There was so many activities that allowed for you to communicate and make friends with other young people. And I've had those friends my entire life. And now you're lucky if your child got one or two friends. They don't go, they don't know anybody outside of their area, or if they go went school with them. And we have this separation on our island that makes no kind of sense. You fighting for something you don't even own, this neighborhood and that neighborhood, and that's a government own. What you worry about that? This one wear this color. This one got his chain. I gonna take it for what? Because you want to go jail? Please speak to your children. I am tired of every day this one dead. Rest in peace. Wings on top of these children. Are you tired? Albert Edwards says we used to have after school programs. Absolutely. I remember even going to Lumako school, and they would end school probably 20 minutes before the class, and then there would be people that came in that knew trades too, and we would have to sign up. You want to do cosmetology, you want to do woodwork, you want to do sewing, and you pick one of them, and somebody would donate their time to come into school for those different activities just a few minutes after school, and maybe a half an hour, 45 minutes before you go home, and it would introduce you to a trade. We don't have that no more. And why are we talking about trade? I have a very big problem with us not allowing for trade school to take place in the daytime. And let me be more specific, on the island of St. Croix. Why is it that we have an entire trade school and adults cannot attend the trade school in a day? And before you tell me, oh, because their school campus, although it's supposed to be separate, then here's what. Move it somewhere else. You have the RT park empty as well across the street. Put it in there. Simple fixes could work, You're trying to tell me you can't have a conversation with the University of the Virgin Islands to host the daytime classes across the street in an empty building, more or less? We have to start to think with, like we have sense. We have to start to have pride in home. If you're not preparing young people to do something when they graduate, what do you think they're going to do? If you can't get a job and mommy struggling and she don't have any resources, what do you think is going to happen? You see people breaking into restaurants. They're breaking into these businesses. You think anybody wants to really be a robber, man? That is a hard job, to be breaking in, sneaking around, and all of this kind of stuff and evading the police. I don't think anybody wakes up and say, yeah, I feel good stealing. So something is wrong. We had all of these programs that we used to have, anti-litter and beautification, to keep the place groomed and give people a stipend to make a little money. Why we can't do that? There has to come a point in time where we decide that we can't keep doing the downward spiral. We can't continue, not knowing what direction we're going in. We're in a tailspin. And it makes no sense. You know why? Because St. Croix once flourished. So it's not like it's foreign to us. It's not like we don't have the trades and the skills. And if we need to ramp up the skills, then let's do that. Let's focus on those areas. I mean, I see a lot of things as having common sense solutions, and we're just not implementing it. And while we're talking about that, I am curious to know if the law was ever amended about the landing rates in St. Croix in particular that were once supposed to be reduced in order to entice airlines to come to St. Croix in particular. I'm going to look for the legislation to check it out because I am trying to figure out, while we don't have the best airlift on the island of St. Croix, why we would even be considering increasing those rates, and why we didn't have a separate situation for both airports. You know, this thing about combining this and combining that, when the deal makes no sense on the St. Croix side, makes no sense to me. I'm looking at, we combined, staffers for the hospitals, two hospitals that are failing. Y'all thought the best idea was to make it so that you have one person running both hospitals, one person doing for both of this and both of that. I don't understand that. Except for if you're just saying that you're going to consolidate, fire everybody in St. Croix, and then everybody in St. Thomas have a job. And then you're talking about increasing the salary. How is that benefiting the hospital? When I sat down and I looked at that meeting where you're taking retirement monies out of people's check, but you're not actually paying a retirement system. Isn't something wrong with that? And we could sit and have a whole meeting. There's one thing about fact finding, there's another thing about actually doing something about what you found. Those people should not be taking out nobody retirement if you're not paying into the system. And this wasn't a once or twice situation. And then you're talking about laying off people. So when you go to the hospital, who's supposed to serve you if you have no staff? 9 years. And we seem like we were better off when Hugo came here and they were walking on a tents. How did that happen? And I know the things that I'm saying is not popular to say. But who don't care is me. Because everybody's seeing it. Because I'm saying it, it don't make a difference. If you think people didn't realize the hospital failing, something wrong with you. I mean, the schools, it's just so many things. And that's why I talk about the powers of the legislature and oversight. Because it's all nice and good. Thank you so much for having a meeting finally to find out how these things been taking place under your watch. Thank you. Here is it for me. What were you doing this whole time? How this happen? How this happen? You're talking about loss of funding, but you've been having budget hearings. Not just now. How come you did not see this before? We talk about a situation with HUD. Why you didn't notice this before? Well documented. No access to the maintenance monies to fix the schools and St. Croix. No direct access for St. Croix, but direct access for St. Thomas. Why you did not know this before? We holding meetings now for fun? The big announcement about the lack of police force. By the way, I would not have done that. You just let a bad man them know they have nobody to fear. But to each his own. Why it is that I could bump up and so many people that want to be officers, but y'all say you need officers. What's going on there? They said wait for this. They go get back to me. Bam, like what's happening? We used to have recruitment in school, nothing. You think these young people need to be um, directed towards certain careers, just like everybody else does. You need a police, you have your academy where you bring them in from high school, they start their process, whatever the case is, when they graduate, they could jump in. Nursing, same thing. One of the things I have in my platform has to do with agriculture, with aquaponics that we recreated in St. Croix, but now we don't even have in the territory. Madness. Why we're talking about having a secure food source. We created one for the world and we don't use it. That don't sound crazy? I just, you need to have a direction and implementation plan. That's it. There's a lot of great legislation already on the books. But if you are not going to implement and follow the law, we have a bigger problem. I see people trying to talk about, oh, we need to do this and we need to write law. Those laws are already on the books. That's why you have a legal counsel in the legislature to let you know when you try to put this together, hey, something is already here. And once you find that out, then go to the executive branch. Hey, this law is on the books. We want to know an update of this, that, the other. You don't just give money and then hope for the best. That's the whole reason you could call somebody into a committee hearing. So when I see all of I'm gonna tell you, this was my last year word, but it coming to this year, shenanigans about you having all of these eureka moments now. And I'm saying, you sit there for all this time and you were unaware. You ain't see the money missing. You ain't see the money not being used. You ain't see the vacancies. You ain't see the buildings that are falling apart, literally in front of your face. You didn't hear about the fan that dropped on a child. You ain't know nothing about none of that. None of that until now. I got a phone call about these children school food, their school lunch. And I haven't been able to get some tangible information yet. And like I said, I don't like to speak of things without having facts. But there have been videos circulating about the condition of the food. And I hope to God for Ayo. I'm going to speak in my dialect now. I hope to God for Ayo sake. It ain't the way I heard the story go. And that y'all would not be sitting by compromising children's health. But I'm going to do my research. And parents, y'all pay attention. If you have to send food with your child to get through the day, you're going to have to do that. We're talking about inspecting and we're doing this and we're doing that. Construction going on and school going on. After school construction and these kind of things. And yes, we know they're working hard. I have nothing against those employees who are working to make sure our schools are better, but this should have been done before, not while we have a school year start again. Good morning, Brenda. Morning, Elaine. You know, growing up around senators that didn't use to play, what do I mean? They didn't use to come up with excuses for the people when things ain't working and ain't right. They just used to go and fix it. Go and fix it. I don't need you to tell me 5 things wrong and come back next year and tell me same 5 things wrong again. But we gonna add on 10 more things to it. And you're gonna just sit down and talk to me for 2 hours, and then we're gonna wait till next year and the same thing again. And all I gonna say is, oh, that's the governor fault. When you could stop the money, or you ain't doing this with the money, we gonna stop this. But I only need him to know how to stop money when he have to go to the hospital, when he have to go to mental health. That's when I know to stop the money. When they needed to go to the taxi cab commission to make sure they had enforcement officers, that's when I know to stop the money. Yeah, I'll talk about getting people raise. There are some people looking and they ain't seen a raise yet. We're gonna ask about that. There's just too many things that are in a negative. And I am your constituent, just like all the other voters out here. And I am not satisfied. And while I understand that everybody has their role to play, senators don't pave roads. They can't find out why a road is not paved. They can't find out how much of the monies have been expended for a project. They could investigate and hold people accountable. So that is not an excuse that I would accept. Karen, aren't the children priority? They should be. And that's what we say all the time. And it seems like right around this time of election time, that always comes up. Children is the priority. Well, I don't see it. What was around when I was growing up, and I am not that aged, is no place to be found. Recreational center ain't got much going on. The housing community rec centers are closed, shuttered, right? So the classrooms, I mean, it's like playing Russian roulette. Maybe yours fixed, maybe the other ain't fixed. So we don't know. You know, I spoke to some of my classmates and that are teachers. You know, there are some of them friends of mine that they just invested into their classroom. They get to a point they ain't waiting for the government anymore. Whatever little bit they have, they you know, they patch up what they could patch up, and that's it. So I have to start to say, is it children our community's priority? Because we can't just sit back and watch nothing be done for them. And that's what we talk about community effort. Greetings, Joran. Keeping in touch.
Greetings.
Good day. How are you?
I am blessed for another sunrise, but it's hot and dry.
Yes.
But nonetheless, we have life.
Yes.
Where there's life, there's hope.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just tuning in.
Okay.
So I don't know what you were discussing before.
Well, we're talking about someone commented here on the live, are the children our priority? You know, and I'm saying that we always say that they are, but are they really? Because as a community member, you don't have to be part of the government to blow the whistle, call out something when you see it, and work towards collectively improving what you see.
Well, we know the specific role and responsibilities for each elected official is outlined in the Revised Organic Act of 1954.
Mm-hmm.
However, the legendary Alicia Chucky Hansen went above and beyond the call of duty.
Mm-hmm.
There was a fire. You call Chucky.
Well, that was like our own Superman, right?
Right.
And you know, we're living in a time now where it's very much apparent that she's not here, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's sad because I would have liked it to be where we could just remember the great things. But when pressure hitting you, you start to think and Chucky answer like, well, if Chucky were here, that wouldn't happen. You know how
I
much I'd
know.
hear that? It's like everywhere I go, you know. And it's sad because yes, I am too, I miss my mother too. But people are hurting. That's why they're remembering her in a different way.
Mm-hmm.
Because they're hurting and they feel like who's gonna help us?
Right. And that's my argument for not supporting what they're calling reapportionment, which is a misnomer. I think the word is being used incorrectly.
Hmm.
And that refers to what happens in the Congress, and that's
Hmm.
just for the House of Representatives.
Somebody's talking about reapportionment now in recent days.
I've just been hearing about it,
Okay.
but I'm just saying people have the terms confused.
Okay.
Um,
What
and
term do you
these
think they should
10
be
years,
using?
I think what they're talking about is subdistricting,
Yeah. Okay.
having smaller districts, like 3 or 4 districts on the island of St. Croix.
So, educator, let me ask you this question. This is St. Croix is 84 square miles.
Hmm.
It's not big. What would be the purpose of subdistricting?
Well, that's what I'm saying. The argument that I'm hearing is you're gonna get more accountability because you're gonna make a senator responsible for a particular district, and that's how it's done other places. But this is the Virgin Islands of the United States. We're unique. There are 4 main islands that make up the Virgin Islands of the United States. There's one treasury,
Hmm.
and we have unicameral legislature.
Well, let
Whereas
me let me
many of
break
the
it down. You getting a little technical with people. Let me break it down this way.
okay, go ahead, break it down.
Okay, I'm gonna use a example, right, of the districts. Let's talk about island districts of the U.S. Virgin Islands. So we have two districts, right? The two districts include St. Croix, one district, St. Thomas,
Yes,
St. John,
St.
and of
John.
course, by
And
default,
includes
Water
Water
Island.
Island.
Correct.
Yes.
Okay. So we always say, well, St. Thomas has a leg up because the the at-large senator has to come out of that district. Correct?
Right.
Okay.
Correct.
So if that is what we have as an example, right? How can you say sub-districting gives you better representation when if somebody else, because although you saying they're coming from, let's say, Christiansted as a district, right? Um, if they come from Christiansted and they vote against something that you want in Frederickstead, how do you hold a person accountable?
And this is what my point is.
Okay, so
Um,
you and I are on the same page, but for the listening audience, indulge me. How do you give yourself less power over the person that has power to decide what's going to happen to you? I hear a lot of people talk about we need less senators. Why? Nobody ever wants less representation. You know
that's
why?
greater power
Because
in the
there's
individual
greater
vote.
power for the less people, right? So if you decide you're
Mm-hmm.
only gonna take three senators, what do you think will happen? Isn't it easier to get to three people than 15? You know,
You
I
will have
just
the same people over and over and over.
not only that, for argument's sake, you got Chucky Hansen and Christian State, right? And
Mm-hmm.
then you get somebody in Frederick said that may not have been as aggressive. And so Christian said started everything, right? You getting everything
Mm-hmm.
approved, da, 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 da. You want to know well, what going on with Frederickstead?
And if I live in Frederickson, I can only go to that one.
Right. And so you
I can't go to the
upset,
one that got open door policy.
right? You upset because you see more productivity happen on the other side. And you don't even have a choice to say, well, I want a person represent me because you live in a different district, right? So it don't
Right.
make, to me, let me just say to me, it doesn't make sense to divide up the
But the
island even
proponents
more.
should explain, but they don't do a good job of explaining because they talk about accountability.
But you hold people
And,
accountable anyway. You get to vote them in or out. What people do not
but that's
like
my
is
point.
people
But no,
don't
that's
like the fact that
accountability.
who they don't like keep getting reelected. But that have you have one
And
vote.
then that's accountability because if I go and vote for the candidate from my district, I have just become more disenfranchised.
I
So
might
the
decide
person
me
from another
voting because
district, I
who they
might
got.
prefer.
I might decide I ain't voting at all because who the options are. Ain't nothing that I think could do anything for me. So I in a smaller district and only three people run. If that, because the possibility is that one person run, two people run. Nobody from your area don't want to run. Then what do you do next? You understand? There are so many things that could go wrong with that equation. Not only that, if the other sub districts hold one head, and your district happen to be the one that they ain't got to worry about because they got all the votes from the other districts.
Right.
You up a creek?
The only thing I could say in support of the idea is they realize that they will have to work more collaboratively. Because if you want me to support your measures, then you're going to have to support mine and this foolishness about preemption and all that might end.
I don't see that happening. And we know that there are senators that don't have no sense of how to negotiate and they follow and they just co-sign. So if you end up with one of those, they might just sign because this person tell them to sign, and that's what you get for your district, right? Because
Mm-hmm.
we're seeing it when it comes to territorial decisions, right? We've seen it when
Right.
we could say in the sister island they might want something and they get us on this side in this district to co-sign, right? But
Mm-hmm.
vice versa, we don't see a lot of that taking place. So it really depends on who your representative is. You can't just
Well,
assume because as a senator they're gonna do that. A lot of them don't.
and furthermore, we don't have a strong two-party political system. The
Right,
Democrat Party dominates, and even they are not always unified.
right.
They don't vote along party lines. I don't
So
think so.
so I'm not a
They
proponent
don't.
for those sub.
They elect
Hmm.
based on party. They get elected, but when they get in there, it's every man for themselves. Everybody pushing wherever they think is the right thing. And like I said, the population. We don't see no dramatic shift in population between Frederickstead and Christiansted. I might
Hmm.
just be a step, one foot from the other district. Because I mean, to drive from where I reside in the Christiansted area to Frederickstead area is a big deal. That's not more than 20 minutes. So,
Hmm.
if there's a patrol in Frederickstead and the road in Frederickstead, it impacts the entire territory.
Not only that, if you're going to sub district, your problems and my problems may not be the same. You may have to, your roads in your neighborhood might be torn right up. I might be living in an area where my roads are freshly paved and I have nice
Yes,
street lights.
have
And
more
so you
issues.
want somebody to
You got more
prioritize that.
issues because they're going to hold you responsible for everything going wrong in that area.
Right.
But my point though is the five major issues, the GRS, the retirement system, the WAPA dilemma, healthcare, educational system,
Hmm.
and public safety, all those issues impact the entire territory.
Absolutely. But
And
guess
then
what? If
I
I
believe they should all
sub
be elected
district,
at large.
if I sub district, I could get my people together and get a clinic in my neighborhood.
And then where everybody go want a clinic, but you don't get an individual budget.
Well,
Every
all of
person
that.
have the same budget. Why you gonna come out of your budget?
But
If you
that's
gonna
what
be
it is
responsible for
now.
your area, you come out of your budget.
That is what it is now. But if I say my district making the most money, my district is the one that carrying the weight, so we need to get more power and we want to keep our money. Again, that's another argument that could come. So I think that being, dividing a already small area makes no sense. I
I
understand what
think
they're
so
trying
personally.
for. But here's another way to hold people accountable. I you go and vote. Get
Thank
your
you.
friends and your family and say, listen, this person ain't doing right by us. We need to move them and collectively go out and vote.
Well, I say to the people who are supporting independent candidates
Mhm.
and the independent candidates themselves, you have a greater challenge. And I would suggest you get those on the inactive registered voter list. Find out what's going on here. Because people are frustrated, they give up. Find out if you could get them. Encourage people to put the people's interest above party.
Well, you
Because
know what? I feel like, well, I could only talk for my interactions with voters. Many voters are registered as Democrats, right? But they are not just voting across party lines, right?
yeah,
Many of them have told me that they have registered as a Democrat because they wanted to be able to vote in the primary, right?
that's exactly my reason.
Right. And so they're not too concerned about who under what party umbrella because in their estimation, the party representatives in certain
That's right.
areas are not reflecting what they would like. And so I mean, they come to me all the time. Just yesterday, my father could tell you, I took daddy out to eat and this woman blow, blow, blow and tell me, listen, I just want you to know I registered just to vote for you. And and she explained to me her story and whatever. But I believe that our people already understand that this thing is more serious than party, right? And
Uh-huh.
and so it doesn't matter what distinction you registered under. When the general election come, you vote with your heart and the betterment for the betterment of these people of the Virgin Islands. And that is how I have always voted historically. And at
Well,
this time, I'm
listen,
encouraging everybody to be a part of the process.
I encourage people to register to vote.
I
And
have been doing that as well.
if
Actually, if you go on my page, it have right
when I
above
say
my ad,
register,
it have
register independent.
register, and also the link for where they can register. Hmm.
I changed from Republican
Hmm.
to Democrat so I could participate in the primary because I like having two bites of my
Yes, and a
apple.
lot of people have done that. And then there's a lot of people that have come to me and they were sad and saying they didn't see my name on the ballot, and I had to explain to them that was a primary Democratic nomination process. And so we
Right.
have to do better about letting people know what the facts are, educating them on how the process works, you know. Um, but I'm doing my best. I'm just one person, and I always encourage all the candidates to go out and let's collectively try to get the information out there. You know.
Well, I don't have to be politically correct because me running for an office, but
Hmm.
I think if a person runs under the party banner and wins in the primary election
Hmm.
and then go to a kick-off campaign for independent gubernatorial candidates, I believe that's political suicide. Like, what's the point? Why you run with the party banner?
Well, we know why a lot of people run. It's not because they have any allegiance to the party. It's because they think it's
No,
beneficial to them.
no, that's showing that doesn't show allegiance. And when once the nominee is officially announced, the Democrat candidate I believe, have an obligation to support because you run on the banner, but I'm a registered voter, registered as a Democrat.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not a DuPain member. So I don't have to do that.
Well,
I don't
listen to
have to be
me,
no political
and
correctness.
I am not in agreement with, I think if you're registered as a Democrat, you're a Democrat, right? And so who paid dues, who ain't paid dues, you're a Democrat. Now the party itself and the leadership might have a difference of opinion with who is a bona fide Democrat based on being a card holding member. That's
Right.
fine, that is their right. But at
That's
the
what
end
I'm
of the
saying.
day, and you see, this is one of the reasons why I decided Elizabeth is independent. My party is the people because I don't want to be distracted with all of that. I
And
don't
I
want
agree
to
with
have to
you.
restrict myself and my ability to seek out people, seek out information, work with people. I don't want any issues based on some nonsense about who I affiliated with. I affiliated with the people of the Virgin Islands. So I go in
That's a good
anywhere,
approach.
I go in anywhere, anytime, anyhow. If I want to see, I go in and peep, I go in to check it out. I don't, you ain't gonna call me and tell me, oh, well, this person was good with the Democratic Party or the ICM party, and so therefore I can't say this and I can't say that. I sign everything. If it ain't right, it ain't right. I talking about it. And so I felt like it was important to be free to represent the people how I see fit.
Mhm.
And yes, it may be a uphill battle for me because I don't get the benefit of the promotion of the Democratic Party, but that's okay. I don't need it. I don't need it. I've been around here my entire life. And yes, oftentimes you see pictures of Chucky Hansen to me was behind the camera. I don't look for position because I want to be the face of something. People tell me, you still work tourism and I don't see you in the photo because that's what I went to tourism to do. If I wanted to be a post-up girl, I could have do that. I could have do my own thing. I'm a promoter. That's not for me. I didn't go there for that. So I'm not to say I can't do it, but my priority is helping people. So yes, there are some benefits to being associated with the party, but I mean, I gonna do what I have to do, and if the people decide they want me, they will choose me. It don't matter what affiliation or lack thereof.
So that's the key. It's the people's choice.
Right, and we
And the
respect
people's
it.
choice must be respected. And one last thing before I go, I want to clarify something. I will elaborate more on this, but the Shanti project that I have talked about,
Mm-hmm.
it involves enhancing Virgin Islands pride, promoting our culture, and recognizing native Virgin Islanders.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to be clear, I believe we should respect the 14th Amendment. The U.S. Virgin Islands is part of the United States.
Yes.
And if you're born in the United States, you are a citizen of the United States, period. We are natural born U.S. citizens, those of us who born here.
Mm-hmm.
However, I embrace diversity. I believe in respecting people's constitutional rights and civic rights, human rights. So I'm not
But let me
promoting
tell you
any
this, educator.
discrimination.
Let me tell
I
you
want it
this.
to be clear. Native, and native means a person born in a place.
Well, let me tell you
And
this. I want to stop you there because I feel like every time a person, a Virgin Islander, says the word native, it has a negative connotation.
I
And
know
I
I
know
want
that's
to
why you
clarify
try,
that.
that's why you have to do a lot of clarification. But I want us to get to a place where we don't have to do that because there's nothing wrong with having pride in self. And
Mhm.
no matter what the history may be or what people may assume, I've gone out throughout the Caribbean and the world. This is the only place that I find when you say the word native, it becomes a bacchanal. And I don't like it because it's kind of like saying you can't speak truth. You cannot acknowledge who you are. And there's nothing wrong with acknowledging who you are. And that's why we're having a problem now
That's what I want.
with
That's what I'm trying to
pride.
say.
Pride in
I
this place.
recognize people right as a U.S. citizen, but I am very proud of my Crucian heritage.
And there's nothing wrong with that. And I tell people all it, and people know me. I mean, I treat everybody the same. That's how I was raised, right? So you can't try to make me feel guilty about saying I'm prideful in who I am as a person. Because if I am proud of me, who else could be proud of me? How can I dare say I gonna come and represent the people of the Virgin Islands but I have no Virgin Islands pride? Something is wrong with that. And it does not have to do with you being born here. I'm extending the conversation outside of native. If
Yes,
you chose to make the Virgin Islands your home,
thank you.
you respect the place, and there must have been a reason you even chose this place or your family or whatever.
Because it's the
Yes,
most exquisite island paradise in the
so
world. That's
so
why.
I look at everybody the same. Throughout my life, my parents had the help and camaraderie and the love of all people. All. And so this thing about we gonna be separate because you get drop off at this island and I get drop off here and no. Why we mix up? You could either acknowledge it or not. That ain't got thing to do with me. If you have a problem with who you are, I don't have a problem with who I am. All of it, the good, the bad, the ugly. All of us, if you are a native Virgin Islander from St. Croix, you got Danish roots, you got this root from this way, you got African root, you mix up. So miss me with all of that. We don't get to choose how we come on this earth. And God, when He ready, gonna take you. So you make it right. The negativity, the animosity, it makes no sense. And you see what's going on right now? We're on an island right now, and a lot of people are suffering. You think anybody worried about this one come from here and that one? No. If you can't pay your light, it don't matter what you look like. You can't
Exactly.
get health care, it don't matter what you look like or what language you're speaking. It doesn't
I
matter.
agree. That's why when I went to a recent um, event, not a campaign event, but
Mm.
meet the candidates, I was surprised at bringing up colonialism because I'm like, what does that have to do with the issues we are facing in the territory?
Yeah,
That's a conversation for another time.
but that
But
tells you people are out of touch.
I bring it up the topic because I want it to be clear. There isn't anything negative to say somebody's a native. You are native if you're born in a place. Period.
Period.
Done.
That's the definition of
The
it.
Native Americans, they were there before the Europeans came. That's why I don't call them Indians. I call them Native Americans
Mm-hmm.
or the indigenous people.
Mm-hmm.
And I respect their history. Their history is my history. And the indigenous people who were here when Columbus came to Santa Cruz, they called the island I. It was
Yeah.
the Taínos and the Caribs.
And they had the
They
Seboni
in
too.
my DNA.
And the
And
Seboni.
I respect everybody that helped to shape our history. They're part of the conversation, they're part of the story because they were here. But like you said, we I just see one race, the human race. I have mixed ancestry, Taino, African, Danish. At the end of the day, I'm a human being. I'm a U.S. citizen, and every U.S. citizen on this island who chose to make the Virgin Islands of the United States their home deserve equal rights to be treated equally under the law. I'm just making it clear, special recognition of
I see
natives.
the project that you're coming up with as something positive for this reason. I think that our history is being lost. Our young people need a reminder and they need to be able to ask the question long after we're gone, right? Why that bus stop name such and such and such? Who was that person?
Right.
You know, why that
Right.
highway name such and such? Who was that person? You know, that's how the conversation is sparked long after we are gone. And so I mean, I think it's a great idea that that would be another resource, to get the information out, to even get this discussion started.
Yeah, I have the communication as unit two. Be able to have a listing, a directory of emergency numbers who you call. If somebody
Mhm.
just hit and died, is dead. Who do you call?
Yeah.
For something, have it there posted. I don't want to call them shanties anymore. That also have a negative connotation. So
Mm,
more something like a communication transportation unit, something to that effect.
mm,
And to connect, to have a more connectivity with all of us. So it's not to put down anybody. I appreciate all those who chose to make the Virgin Islands their home and once born here. I call them Virgin Islanders. But I'm not going to be a hypocrite and contradictory and say you're a native. And that's the problem I see with that definition that was in the fifth draft about ancestral native. So that means you might not be you might not be born in the Virgin Islands, but because you have an ancestor born in the Virgin Islands, that make you ancestral native Virgin Islander, and you're supposed to get property tax exception. No, that's not what I'm talking about.
well, that's
I'm
another
talking about,
conversation for another day,
yeah.
but
I just want to emphasize.
yes,
I am trying
I
to
got you.
promote our culture, enrich our history, and enhance Virgin Islands pride. So
Well,
thank
thank you
you.
so
Be
much. Have
blessed.
a good weekend. Yes, you too.
Okay.
You could call back 340-773-0390. 340-773-0490. Hi to all of you that have jumped on the lives. I see you out here. I'm telling you, I getting older for real. I need my glasses, eh? Uh, hi, Cos Norma. I see you, Colonel. Hi, how are you? Jalia, greetings. Tyler, hello. Marilyn, good day to you. Um, greetings, you're on Keeping in Touch. Greetings.
Yeah, good morning, everybody. How
Good
you think
day.
today?
St. Croix is standing, man. Nice,
Oh,
nice weather
like,
today.
yeah, I don't know how old you is, but years ago, right? They used to have a thing in St. Croix, the music festival. Remember them time?
Yes, I
The time
remember that. I remember that.
why they cut it? I see all the Caribbean countries following St. Croix. You shop in St. Croix, you know that? I keep saying it's a music festival.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Let
that's
me
what.
tell you, it's so much things start in St. Croix that we don't have anymore, but all the other islands picked it up.
Yeah, right. Because I know when I came here for St. Croix, that only place I know in the Caribbean music festival.
Mm-hmm.
St. Croix don't have none that money, and everybody for, and they got to get St. Croix too. And every Friday night, but every Friday, I think the guy Jones had it. That's Friday. What do you think? Something every Friday night, this got this thing and in it. Anyway, I think so. The question is, why did St. Croix got the ball? Why we can't have a music festival bringing people all over the place?
You know what I would say, St. Croix, we have this problem where we fight each other.
Yeah.
Who in charge? Who will get the credit? And we have it has grown legs, and now it's running all over the place rampant. We had the
No.
music festival, the jazz festival, the first one in the Caribbean.
Well, exactly, but
Beautiful,
you know what
huge.
thing-
We had artists, international artists came here,
Yeah.
and it was a collective group of Virgin Islanders that had it together, and it went left. We had the Cruise and Christmas Festival used to alternate from Christiansted to Frederickstead. No, it doesn't happen in Christiansted anymore. There's a lot of things. Yeah.
One in Houston said.
Yeah.
But let's forget. But you know what? I know now. You know where? You know the music festival going to be St. Thomas.
Well, that has been a discussion, and here is my thing. I have no problem with any festival happening in St. Thomas, but why is it that St. Croix can't have something on that level?
But the question is, where the senators there from St. Croix?
Well,
St. Croix senators them.
hey, I've been saying that, but And that's why I am a candidate, because I get to a point where it's like talking to a brick wall.
Hey, so hey, you see Chucky Hansen? I admire Chucky Hansen. I don't know if it was she always at the bar. She was out there. I remember when they had this thing at the hospital, this when they laugh, you go up with him at the hospital.
Yes.
Remember when this man, a few months later, the man coming suicide up in the state.
Yes.
Chucky Hansen was the only one out there. I remember looking at the TV here in St. Thomas.
Mm-hmm.
He was the only, I said, what you say, well, Chucky Hansen can't be the only one or something. And they laugh. They look, him, I went up in the state, the man coming suicide.
Yes.
Chucky Hansen was against him. Same again when they had him at Wapa. Like
yeah, we went to court. We went to court with Wapa.
Yeah, Chucky Hansen again was there again. So you need another Chucky Hansen. Go Chucky, bad Chucky shows on the ball. You go call, one time I was calling St. Thomas, right? And I called the senator. I was at the boy legislator Billy. First time I ever see Chucky Hansen. And I'm going upstairs, you know. I was going upstairs to look for what's Celestina White.
Yeah.
And Chucky Hansen said, you know, well, what you need? I said, I come to look for Celestina. Listen, I'm a senator, you know, you could tell me what you want. I say, you can come tell me what you want. And you know, I tell her what I want. I'm looking for a job letter to go to somebody to go to Barbados, you know, to get a green card. They say they want a job. Sometimes, you know, she said, we'll for a sponsor. Jackie Hansen said, come. She went upstairs to get the lady to everything. I said, go get her away. She really on the ball.
Yes, that's how she was. And you know, I tell people there will never be another Chucky Hansen, because she really.
And one thing about that, she never was afraid to call Dr. Show and no show.
Oh no, she.
I never remember hearing this guy. What he named? You know, he was the lieutenant governor for right. Neville Francis. He was a commissioner of police, right?
Yes.
He was my boss one time. He was my boss one time. I never hear him call a show. I never hear him say nothing about nothing.
Well, they don't say they have different styles now, eh? So they say they have different styles, but I agree. I think that a senator is supposed to be vocal. It's not just about passing bills.
The average person cannot call the show because they're working, they got to look at the job. Right? But you're being a senator, you're supposed to get any ball. You're not going to be always right. But it's going to do something. So God bless Chucky Hansen. The woman, I never tried to sing by senator, but she was on the ball. All the things that are going out, Chucky Hansen on the radio. She's been making noise.
Yeah.
These senators, then, like they're dead, we're paying them to keep them out shut. That is not the role of a senator. No, you look at America, right? You look at cable, you look at C-SPAN, you look at Fox. Every week, you hear a Democrat and a Republican saying something. One Democrat, one you go to C-SPAN, you go to Fox, CNN, they got a Democrat and a Republican, you know, and they say something. These guys, I don't know if somebody don't pay them to keep them out shut. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. Another thing again, too. Why I could never understand. I think we've got 7 senators, right? You know, you got in America, you got the black caucus, got the Hispanic caucus. Where the Senko is caucus? I have that. Where the Senko is caucus? This Senko is A, B, C, D. We're not going to give up not unless we get A, B, C, D. I think it will be good, but the problem we have here, right? We don't have this politics. I think it's something you should know more than. I look at the people who donating money to these governors, and nothing wrong with that, right? But most of the money coming from outside of EVI, come from New York. Some of the people who donate to these candidates for running for governor before the term, I never hear about them. Now, Bloomberg is a good man. Now, he gave a lot of money to historically Black College. They give them, what, $10 or $6 million. But what I'm telling you, Bloomberg live in New York, right? All these people, I read the newspaper, they don't see it's a kind. But my question is, what do they want? Because you know nobody give up money for nothing. Nobody.
That's true. That's true. But you know what?
Walk up to you and your $10,000 and say, "Hey, you look so pretty." They want something in return.
But here's the thing that a lot of us miss. We think because we live in a small territory that people don't pay attention to us. You have to remember that a lot of people, whether we know it or not, have interest in the Virgin Islands.
Yeah, and they want their people to be there. They want to know Mr. X there, Mr. X. Because look at Esteem. I did some research. And you know, Esteem never vote here. Esteem, he never vote here. But what? He contribute money to all the politicians. When he dead, I know how much money this man used to give. This gave money. I never know the man I give money. I know he was good with the governor and stuff. But when he died,
but a lot of people have given money to politicians here. You just say know about it. And this is why I say a lot of people, and I tell people all the time, don't assume because of our size that we are not important. Look
Yeah,
at what's
we
going on in the
protest it.
world. The reason that we are even owned by the US is because of our importance, our location strategically in the Caribbean. We talking
Yeah.
about now they're looking at Hovensa, well, Lime Tree area. They're looking at our refinery,
Well, I understand.
right?
A training man one boy. The Chinese
A
company.
lot of
They
people
want the
are
boy.
interested, it seems, in
Yeah.
our refinery. I mean, and it makes sense, you know.
Yeah.
Venezuela is right there. We deal with crude oil here before, so don't
And
don't take
they
it for
don't.
granted that people are not interested in the territory. And
And
so, of
you know
course,
what I
if
don't
I
like about?
want something stable, if I
Yeah.
want to be able to do business, even if, and a lot of them don't, um, a lot of people don't think about this. A lot of those people have houses here. A lot of
Yes.
those people have family living here. You might not know about it.
Yeah.
You see, the
But
president
but
of the United States was coming here for vacation. He was doing that long before, but nobody knew.
yeah.
He got family living in the territory. So let's,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know, think about that.
Biden got a brother over here. Biden have a brother over here living on Water Island. Biden have a brother only. I think a
Yeah, but
Russian boy.
every Christmas he comes to St. Croix. You
Yeah.
know that.
Yeah. But you know what I don't understand though? I just get angry with this. When I hear you give a man a contract for 40 years. Come on, nobody can be alive in them 40-year contract, at least for 40 years, at least for 50 years, and with the option to renew. Who can be
But
around?
you
Give
ain't
me
hear the
a
one
20
for
years.
Watley Island at least for 99 years.
That's what real I didn't know that, but I heard about I didn't see it was written away, but I heard somebody talk about a man get a contract away. I know this second understand the government got building, right? For
Mm-hmm.
$30 a month. Right? And when people went in the government building, they want 50,000 a month, 40,000 a month. I see a building over here, right? Where the government rent this guy. You know what you do? Some years ago, the government rent him for $1,000 a month. He fixed up the building, put in a phone, change the door, and he rent the government for 50,000 a month. Yeah, I never
Well,
forget. The guy rent the government for where he rent the government for where it wasn't 50,000 or 40,000 a month with education, other storehouse, other store, you know. Yes, you get it
mm,
from the government.
yeah, all
So,
kind of things. But again, we
and
have
then,
to get a handle on what's
but,
going
but,
on in
but
the
this is when
territory.
citizen comes in. This is when citizen supposed to, when this thing comes to lease, question these people, they tell me something.
Well,
How you
again,
gonna pay
that's your
1,000 a month?
senators have oversight. They could call you
Yeah.
in. Why we renting from everybody? Why we leasing from
And you know,
everybody? That
I,
those are
you know,
questions.
you know how I know this is a fraud? Look at the hearing, right? And you senator have 3 minutes. What could you do in 3 minutes? Give the senator half an hour and let it go to the time. Senator, your time up.
Oh gosh, you can't give
I
each one
think
of them a half an hour, but that's why you have hearings. You everything in a committee meeting. You have hearings in the public. You find out the
right,
information. You meet with the people.
right,
You come
right.
in now when you got to deal with a committee. You come in now. You ask on the
Yeah.
record. Hey, we spoke to these people. We heard X, Y, and Z. Tell us what the facts are. Show
And
us
then
what you
some
want to do.
sometimes others say, right? You know, those who understand. You send them something to the legislature on Monday and they got to finish it by Tuesday. You know, it takes 2 years to negotiate a contract and agreement, right? And you're going to send it to the legislator on Monday morning. And they got to approve it by Friday. So I take 2 years to negotiate a deal, right?
Mhm.
Right? And then I going to tell you that a week or 10 days to thing. Look at the thing there with the USC Commission, the USC. It was like the postpone it. But sometimes you find like health insurance, right? The health insurance for the government.
Mhm.
They're going to send it down on Tuesday. Tuesday morning, and you got to approve of it by Friday. And they take a whole 6 months, a year to negotiate that deal. So something is wrong right there and then. You should say, hey, as a senator, no. You had it for 2 years, or what year negotiating. How are we going to get it done?
Well, here's the good
in
thing.
a week?
November coming up just now. You get to decide if that
And
you're
then,
gonna choose somebody that gonna make a fuss about something like that, or you're gonna go with the status quo.
and next again, my philosophy is this. I'm going to say it. I know you're going to have to, but I'm going to say it. If you ain't living in Virgin Islands, you shouldn't contribute money to no senator. You cannot tell me you live in New York, California, you never been with Providence.
Why you feel like that? Why you say that?
Because if you ain't live here, you ain't feeling no pain. You ain't sit down with people go out every 2 minutes, every 5 minutes. Your school closed down, no school open.
Yeah, but what does that have to do with them wanting to support a candidate?
Yeah, but they live in Hollywood, they live in the state. You live in the state, you can't do much to them. They say we got to start. You might can't wait for somebody, right? Who the person wins, but you ain't have to feel the consequence. How you know? You get in your taxes break, you get a new contract for 20 years, you get a lease agreement, but you don't have to get up and wonder if the switch got open. You don't got to wonder if your car on your register, because you're living easy living. You got it easy. So I'm saying, if you ain't living in a hotel, you should not contribute no money to the politicians then, because you ain't gonna feel no pain. You know, so like this is my opinion.
Okay.
Because if you live in China, you can't contribute money to American politicians. If you
Oh,
live in France,
if you
you
think
can't.
that what happening, all kind of people contributing,
Right.
you
And
know.
this-
But I
and-
mean, you could probably say you would like it to be limited, so it's not something so egregious that
living
it
in London,
shifts.
I don't feel the pain. Get up in the morning and realize, my God, before I gone out. Hey, look, come for your children from the school, if the water stop run, no water in the school. Then you know, man, no, I can't keep these people, you know? But if you don't got to suffer.
But let me tell you
don't got to-
something. The people always get to decide. You have millionaires that have run for office in the Virgin Islands and they never win yet. People will always decide what will happen. So you could donate as much money as you want. Yeah, it might help you with advertisement and everything, but at the end of the day, if the people don't want you, they don't want you.
But tell me something. When you think about this, right? Before somebody gets elected, right? No, I swear with you, before you swear to me, election is in November, right?
Mm-hmm.
Why you have to take until January to swear to me? Why you can't, election is in November, don't swear to me in February, because they get a chance to cover up all the wrong they do.
If you think
most in Britain, all in France, all of the world is America. Your election done in November, swear you in next day. You don't have to wait until that's me you cover in
well, the thing is, you have to work on a transition. You can't just turn over one day and that's it. They have to work on transition.
But in most of the world, in France, in China, in India got 1 billion people. Election is on Monday in India, Tuesday the swear with Prime Minister. All America got that. And you know what is that, right? They said that about for years and years, because the politicians them in those days, 100 years ago, they used to cover their holiday wrong they do. They give enough chance to.
Well, if that's your intent, you don't have to wait till you get reelected.
So they burn all the thing, they burn the paper, they move back home with everything in the train. And then there was no plane. So you got the train, you're going to cover up everything. So when your man come in now, he don't got anything to come at you. But I think it must come for all senators to disclose the assets. Before you take office, okay, you take office in January, disclose your assets. When I took office, I had $3 in the bank. Because you might have a bank account with $3. 8 years later, you left, you got 100 million. I now governor here. When he left office, he bought 3 shopping malls.
Governor of the Virgin Islands?
Yeah, he's a former governor. When he left office, he bought 3 shopping malls. He bought the mall, he bought Chaka Mall, that's 2, and he bought Nisky Center. Former governor, you know what I mean? When I see it in the paper, and when I see it in the papers, this governor send no man, they make a mistake. Governor this and so and so. I can't name by 3 man. When I couldn't believe I called the news and said, yes, that's the information they get from me. The lieutenant governor asked because they register for companies here in my own. How that happen? How you couldn't come here 6,000 a year and buy shopping mall that cost 6 million and 20 something.
I don't know, but I tell everybody here on this show, I don't run with it unless I do my homework. But that could have been a group payment or something. I don't know.
He was in the Daily News. And I could get him. He had 2 terms. And I could get never him.
I'm not one that thinks, right? I'm going to be clear and straightforward, because there's an assumption that somehow if you hold public office that you're not supposed to get anything after you've done work all them years. The assumption is you have to be stealing. I don't believe in that.
No. You have to tell it, right? You have to, if you left office, if I come into office, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I was making 50,000 a year. When I left office, should that be able to buy something for 24 million? There's no way you could take that little salary, 150,000 a year, and tell me you can buy a mall for 8 million. No, I say you can't own nothing. How you get it? You saw the Trump?
Yeah, but like I said, they could have done things. They could have worked with somebody else.
This Trump took office, you don't make 2 billion. How do you get that money?
Well, we know Trump is a different kind of worms altogether, eh? So we can't make he has a comparison at all.
Yeah, but the next thing, what we got to do here, we got to do to get more accountability. I know you might disagree with this. Districting. I look at you send Christ divided into 7 districts, and everybody running their own district. So district in
Say that one more time. I'm sorry, I didn't understand. Wait,
So,
sir?
okay, 7, you have 7 senators from St. Croix, right?
Yes.
I like to see you divide up St. Croix to 7 and give each senator a district to control a sub-district.
Why?
The diamond is because you is more accountable, isn't it? Right now, right? You should tell me for around. You ever hear 7 Democrats running against 7 Democrats?
How you mean? In a general
Okay,
election?
10 times, so you got 7 Democrats. All of them running against each other. 7 of them, in most states in America, right, is a Democrat against a Republican. That's how it is in America. A Democrat, whether it's New York, California, you don't want your 2 Republicans running in the Bronx. You don't want your 2 Republicans running in LA. It's a Democrat against a Republican. But we have 7 Democrats now. You got to choose 7. Okay, you got much people in St. Croix, all independent. You got about 30 people. You go through 7 Democrats. You have 7 Democrats running against 7 Democrats. If everybody went at large, it should have been 7 districts, 7 Democrats running against 7 independents. I said a Democrat, a Republican, or independent. But not 7 people. You go choose from 7. You got 7. You need to choose from 7. No, it should be 1 year, 1 year, 1 year.
Well, the people get to decide who they want. It doesn't matter the party affiliation.
You go far to the crap because a guy could pull a vote, only one person gone home. You know, because I don't go to Mary and he gone home. But if you had to go between 2 people, no. So like Frederick said then. You could say Frederick said, you got Christian said, you got whoever. You might represent a Frederick said, right? So you have a primary, 5 Democrats run. The winner went on to go to the general election. That Democrat should be running against ICMA, a Republican, or independent. He shouldn't be running against. You shouldn't be choosing between 2 Democrats. It doesn't make any sense. It should be one Democrat.
That's
here,
your
one
choice,
Democrat.
but again, you're restricting the options that you have based on
No,
party.
you don't restrict your.
Yeah, I restrict them because if you're saying that you're making that determination based on if the person is a Democrat or ICMA or a Republican.
No, I would like to have a fight between a Democrat, a Republican, and an independent.
Let me tell you how you get representation, right? Fairly. Because even if you're elected from each district, when you're making decisions that affect the entire Virgin Islands. So why not have everybody run at large?
Okay, you got 2 senators from New York, right? 2 senators to represent you in the Senate. You think you have a choice? You don't get Democrat and a Republican. You go to California, Los Angeles got a mayor, San Francisco got a mayor. You see one mayor with a Democrat, the other might be independent or Republican, but you can't have 2 mayors you go choose from. It's one Democrat you got to choose from. So I think we need to divide up St. Croix to 7, divide up St. Thomas in the 7.
I don't see the benefit of dividing St. Croix.
When you got a problem in Patrick said, you call it the senator. Right now you go call 7 senators. You should have got 1 person to call.
You could call as much as you want or as little as you want. You have options.
You can't 7 people, all of them. 7 people can't work on 1 problem.
Listen,
7 senators can't
you
work
could
on
call 1 or you could call 7. It's your choice.
And
But if you're stuck with just
my-
one and that one ain't do nothing for 2 years, you got a problem because you ain't getting nothing out of that.
And okay, this is what I will do though. Here we have the St. Croix and St. Thomas voting on it. I will look at your friend like a 4 years. 4 years ain't enough. You can't do that in 2 years. A good day is going to take you a year and a half.
So let me ask you this. If you allow for 4 years term for a senator, and the senator is not a progressive person, they don't do nothing for 4 years, you stuck with them. You stuck with them for 4 years.
After 4 years,
Yes, but my thing is, if they're not productive, you can vote them out in 2. If they're productive, you keep them for another 2.
No, but 2 years they can't do that. You really can't.
Why you can't do nothing in 2 years?
What you going to do? After your Tony, they'll tell you a good legislation take at least a year and a half to 2 years.
I said, and I saw my mother do great legislation every single term she saw. It didn't take her now 2 years. Yeah. And this story about you need 2 years to figure it out, and then the other 2 years, then you start to write something. Then this job ain't for you.
And then the next thing to what we need term limit for you senator. The governor got 2 terms.
The term limit is when the people decide we want you no more.
But the governor got 2 terms.
Yeah, because we don't want a dictatorship, but senators are different. They don't have the same powers as a governor.
Going forward, we got to make some changes. The Attorney General should be elected. I don't know if you agree with me. The Attorney General should be elected.
So let me ask you, right? this is just I'm being devil's advocate here. If they're elected, if somebody come from the outside and pay them, right? In other words, support their campaign, right? Contribute. Then don't you think they may have a sort of allegiance to that person?
The governor, they could do the same thing with the governor. So the governor is elected. They could give the governor.
That is true, but the governor doesn't control the legal system, right?
The governor controls the budget with the attorney general. But this means if you got people who are honest, you don't go wrong about that.
Exactly my point. You could try to put as much as you want in place, but if you don't have honest people, you're gonna always have a problem. That's it.
So your for the attorney general being elected. Your for the attorney general being elected.
I would have to look into it because there are pros and cons to everything.
Remember, the governor could fire the attorney general. You know what the attorney general the governor don't fire?
Well, yes, but you know what? That isn't the norm. We've had attorney generals in the past, and we had this heap of changes and all of that.
The attorney general elected, and then after 6 years, he must you have to do. It's being okay. You know the auditor general, right? The auditor general can't be fired. When you appoint the auditor general, he got 6 years, right? And 7. You know the auditor general. You appoint the auditor general, but the governor can't fire him.
Yeah, but like I said, I would have to look into it deeper because districts have different rules based on certain things in their district, and so we cannot call and copy everything.
Okay, a judge. Let's say a judge. You know the governor can't fire a judge, right? The judge lasts for 7 years. Am I right?
They have to get reappointed. It depends on what kind of judge too. Yeah.
I mean the territorial judge because the governor cannot fire a judge right now. The governor can not try to move a judge. And and when the court just said the court said you can't fire him. Yeah, that tried to move one and judges some years ago. But anyway, I listen to the attorney general to go get a 7-year term, a 6-year term. So
well, you have a lot of big ideas. I'd like to maybe I'll hear you call me back next week and we discuss it in more depth.
Thank you, man, and God bless you.
Thank you so much. And same to you. All right. Yes, so that was rapid fire. Thank you so much for calling in. Let me tell you something. I want this campaign to heat up. I want that people come out, fight for this thing, fight for the Virgin Islands. There is a plethora of things that we can improve, just like any other district. But I am hoping for that after this election is over, we could collectively come together, put egos and whatever aside and just work for the people. It's been too long where the egos and the pettiness take over. And now we're at this juncture where this is the make it or break it for the Virgin Islands. We have to make up our mind to work together, put our heads together, brainstorm, do what we have to do, and get work done. I don't want to hear no more about we working on it coming in a couple years. I'm exhausted with that. We need to start to address issues like, if we have low recruitment for officers, teachers, nurses, let's get real incentives. How about we start building homes and giving certain provisions for teachers, police officers, nurses, for home ownership. Something got to give. Let's start giving these young people support and stop, alienating them and making them out to be little monsters. That's our children we're talking about. And maybe if we did a better job collectively of looking out for our young people, we wouldn't have so much problems. They're smart. They're skillful. But if you don't prepare them for the world is going to take them and mold them into what we may not want. I keep saying every generation we have an opportunity to change things. And every year we seem to drop the ball. Come on, man. So much sacrifices has taken place so that we can be here today. And we just spitting in our ancestors' faces with our behavior. I don't want to go on the road anymore and hear young people talking with a load of profanity. They don't even try to get quiet when an older person pass. It's like they're not even aware that this is disrespectful. I don't want that to become our normal. Our girls walking around with the front out, the bottom out. You're going to walk in clothing that you could go in the club with. Come on, there has to be standards. First day at school, your daughter got a miniskirt. I mean, pants hanging down, and this is what you. And let me say, we as parents, that's what we promoting. Back to basics. All these distractions is not working out for us. Your children got more expensive cell phones than what you have, but they can't read. They cannot write. They don't know how government works, who represents them. Some of them don't know they live in a territory. And I have time to argue about who get credit for something. Well, who gonna take the credit for all the failures since we want credit? You know, sometimes I sit down and I say this ain't a real place. It can't be just me seeing this. Elevate your thinking, your pride for home. You should be telling your children when they go out to school, you better don't dare go out there and embarrass yourself or embarrass me. Do what you have to do, get your education, and come home. I shouldn't get a phone call about nobody fighting for nobody else's property. That you know somebody have a camera filming you and you continue the behavior. And then I have to come to school to defend your bad behavior. I would be embarrassed as a parent trying to justify my child's bad behavior. Talk to your children before you cannot talk to them anymore because they're not here. And it ain't got to be your child. You live in a neighborhood with a child, talk to them. All we hearing now is, I used to know this one before they get shot. I had noticed one and he was such a sweet little boy. And I'm tired. I'm exhausted. I don't know if I am exhausted. I'm feeling drained with all of this going on. Somebody house burned down. This one gets shot. That one, I don't realize people ain't going outside anymore. Broad day, like people getting shot. Who going outside? No more nightlife because small businesses struggling. And if you put a little party together, your place could get shut up. I went on the boardwalk down in Christianstead. A handful of people where I remember it was hustle and bustle. Why? A man could get murdered in broad daylight on the boardwalk. This what we line our community turn into. When the children the outside want to play baseball, I won't even sit down and watch them play. You're cussing in front of the kids. When they cussing, you're getting upset. You're going to the school threatening the teachers. Get together, man. We know we didn't get raised like that. Why would you think that's okay? Why I have time to go and argue about my daughter should be able to come school with a pom-pom shorts and a short skirt? That's your priority? We have to do better. These children are being lost before they even hit 25, 20. And for what? You think about in 5 years what the place gonna look like? And don't think it's gonna stay like that, Because while we out here playing around, people are seeing our paradise and saying, yes, this is where I gonna live, this is where I gonna build, this is what I gonna do. I gonna develop. And because we might think we have it so terrible here, but people see the potential in the place. And I tell people all the time, I have traveled around the world. A lot of people don't know how great we have it. Beautiful beaches. I could literally walk and take my lunch to go on the beach side. Clear waters, nice people. There's a lot of places that don't have that. People see me all the time in the States and all these different countries and say they want to retire where I live. So you have to really think, do you want to be a part of this or you want somebody else to have it while you grieving over something that should have never taken place in the first place? Well, we are out of time, but I want to thank you all for joining me here again for another Saturday. We'll be here next week, same time, same place, 10 to 12 here on WSTX AM 970. This has been Keeping in Touch, people. I appreciate you guys always. I hope that you continue to go through this weekend. I am praying that you're safe and that you can make this place better than how you met it. And extended calls are streaming.